everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way, and this week's project is a little beach scene. I've got this little girl on the beach with her umbrella, and I'm going to show you how to do a really cute print on these. This is really fun to do, and you can do this on other things as well. So I want to show you how to do this. Think about putting this maybe on a large container, doing some kind of pattern like this. You do this with the stamps, so I'm going to show you how to do that, and we'll put this little composition together. And the good news is it only takes 2 stamp sets and 3 stamps. So here's what we need. We need the little girl's beach set or the little boy's beach set, because you could use either one. And I'm going to use this little girl here and of course the umbrella. And then I'm going to do the pattern on there with the palm tree. So I've kind of got her on the beach, and I thought that'd be really cute to kind of follow that tropical theme. So I'm going to take one of these little palm branches and use that on the umbrella. Okay, so let's get started here. We're going to first start out by stamping the basic image, and in this case it's the umbrella. So we're going to stamp that first, and I'm going to ink it in the brown only. So this is the dark brown, and I want this to be really light because I am stamping it in a pattern. So I want to keep this super light, and I'm going to actually stamp it off. So I'm going to stamp it off onto another sheet of paper first to make sure that it's really, really light, and then I'm going to stamp it into the background. I want that super light. And what I've done is I've sort of cut a reverse mask. So I don't know if that's actually the name of it, but it is in my case. So we're cutting a reverse mask, and what I've done is I've stamped this onto a Post-it note, and then I cut out the center. And if you look at, let me just show you that umbrella again. So here's the umbrella, and we're only cutting out this section. So the very top section, this little bottom piece under here, which shows the back of the umbrella, we're not cutting that away. We're leaving that on here. So we're only we're only leaving open the very top of the umbrella here. And we're creating this mask so that we're protecting the rest of this area. And we're just gonna stamp on the inside here. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is a background. And we're gonna do that with a marker onto our palette. So I've chosen the light blue, and this, one of my favorite colors, is the number 526. It's a really pretty bright blue. And I'm going to dip my brush in water now and just lighten this up. So I'm going to make this super, super light. And you can see I haven't pulled any color out of the lines yet. So I'm just going to brush this on just so that we can create a background here. And the color will sort of bleed into it a little bit, but that's okay. And you know, this is a contour, so this is rounded. So we're gonna want it to be lighter in the front. So always keep that in mind when you're doing these little projects. And then of course darker in the back. Really, really makes a difference to just think about that before you actually start doing anything. Is this a contour? And if it is, we got to show a highlight. So the sides of course are going to be the darkest, and actually inside where these little crevices are, that's going to be darker too, because they're all individually contoured. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now as soon as that's dry, we're going to take the little palm branch like this, and of course we don't need the whole thing, so we're just going to ink the tip and just random. You know, it doesn't matter that it's even, it doesn't matter that it's placed in a pattern, it really doesn't matter at all. This is a watercolor, and watercolor is actually very abstract, so it doesn't matter if you get it into here perfectly. So just kind of turn it a little bit. This is why we do the mask, is so that we can stamp and not worry about getting it on to the rest of the paper. And then just use the tips too, you can do that. Oops, didn't get that on there very good. And then maybe let's put one more back in here. Okay, so now I can take this off, this mask off, and you can see that I've got this stamped into the background, protected my areas, and now I'm going to add water to it just like we would if we were creating the palm trees. So we want to leave that spine, you know, in the center. I want to leave that white, even in this pattern. But this is so fun to do, and you can do this with any of your small stamps. So your little florals, you can create a really neat floral background. Super cute. Sky's the limit. And the only thing you have to do is make sure you cut that, that mask so that you're protecting the outside area. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to take some of this color now, and I'm going to brush it in down below. And just brush it in, just like this. And up under here, it's going to be darker, kind of in the shadow. So we can do that a little bit darker there. Okay, that's pretty much all we have to do. We can pull a little of this color out now from the handle. That'll work. And let's go on to stamping our little girl now into the foreground. So here she is on the large block, and I'm going to use my positioner because I want to make sure that I don't stamp her over the top of the umbrella. So we're going to take the little plastic shield like this, and I'm going to ink her in the dark brown. So I'm just going to use this, the 969. There's other ways that you can do it. This is the easiest way. Just ink the whole thing in the 969. But the key is to stamp it off because this is a pretty dark color. We don't want her too dark. If you want a darker skin on this little girl or the little boy, you add that later. So you don't want to put that into the line. So even if it's you want a darker skin, you're going to do it later. So even in that case, you want to make sure that you are stamping it super, super light. So I've stamped this off and taken the majority of it off, and you can see how dark those lines are. We don't want to see an outline in the background. We want it to look as natural as possible. And so we don't want that dark outline around her. So now I'm going to stamp her onto my little shield. And I think I will put her right here. Make sure that her little feet are flat. Take this away and just huff on it. And even once you've stamped it off, just use a really light hand when you're stamping it. Don't just mash it into the paper. Just even pressure so that she's very, very light. Okay, so let's go on from here. And we're going to just pull some of this color out of the line. So you can see I stamped a little bit over that umbrella. That's easy to wash out. So we're going to do the skin here. And what you want to remember on these little people is that there's always a highlight on the top. So think about the top of the shoulders, the top of her knee, the top of her head. Those all need to show a highlight. The light is coming down, and so we want to see that highlight. These are all contours, so they're rounded. They're rounded. These are like domes, and so the highlight is going to be at the top. So in that case, the darkest color is at the bottom. So this is where we want to pull that color out and drag it up to the top. It's going to be very, very light. I hope you can see it on this video. I'll hold it up after I get the color pulled out. But this is the way we want to do it. We want to do it super, super light. And then you can always add more some warm brown or some cool brown. This is when you do it, not in the lines when you first stamp it. So the top of her knee, the top of her shoulder, we want to see that highlight. And then her hair. So let's just pull this out, carefully pull this out. It's going to be super light. Okay, that looks good. So let's go on now and add her little swimsuit color. And I've picked a bright red. And I'm just going to dip my brush, pinch it off, and then put this color on. See the top of her back too. She's bent over, so she's going to have a little highlight on the top of her back. It's really, really important to do that because we don't want these little people to look flat. And even if it's a simple little watercolor, you still have to follow these rules. Otherwise, it looks like a coloring book. And anything colored in the same line to line is going to be flat. So it's so important to get that highlight in there. Just always think about the top of the image. And the more passes we do on this swimsuit, the darker it gets. Okay? Clean my brush off really well. And I'm going to use a light color on her hair. But the nice thing about these little people is that the face doesn't show, so you can make it your own and use the hair color that you want to add. So I've got the yellow on there, and I'm just going to add a little warm brown now to my palette. So this is the number 947. I'm just going to take a little tiny bit of this, just a little bit, and put a little bit onto her hair at the bottom. Just like that. And this is when you can change the skin tone. So a little warm color like this, you can just brush that on very carefully and super light. And you can see I haven't done much with the face. We don't have to do much with the face at all. And you could take just a tiny, tiny bit of this red and just do a little cheek. Okay, so let's go on to our little bucket. And I'm gonna put some bright colors on here. So some yellow. This is a contour also, so it's gonna have a highlight. A little color on the inside like that. And then while that's drying, let's go ahead and put in the sand and the ocean. So here's that same warm brown again, the 947. And I'm gonna really water this down. So I'm gonna add enough water to this to make it really, really light. And just kind of brush this in next to her. You don't want to touch any part of her body so that it doesn't bleed into the sand. And just brush this in. Don't overthink this. You know, it's just the idea of it. Like clearly she's on the beach and this is sand. So don't worry so much about getting everything perfect. And then let's put the water in, and I think we need a little green in it. Change the color here a little bit, maybe a little more. And then just straight, even strokes when you're putting the water in, just straight, even strokes, and keep it light. You know, it's always better to start light. You can always add more color, but it's hard once you get it in there super dark to change it. So always err on the side of too light. And just straight, even lines. And again, I'm being careful not to go near the lines of the little girl or her bucket. Okay, that looks good, and I think that bucket's probably dry now, so I'm going to add a little more color to it. Maybe a little blue handle. With a little shadow underneath, like that. And let's add a bright detail to it. Okay, that looks pretty good. We need a shadow under her, so that's really important. She looks like she's kind of one with the sand. So we need to add a little color, and that would be from our palette. So I'm going to add a little of this color. This is the dark blue, so the number 565. I'm gonna add a little bit of color to my palette. And I really just need to put a line underneath her. So just take a little bit of this and just put a little blue line underneath and where her feet are, and then underneath her bucket. And you can see that kind of just lifts her off the ground. And we can put a little shadow onto this umbrella as well. Just a dark shadow to show that that's coming forward here. And let's just add a little darker color in this little bucket. And to the side. Okay, that looks good. So let's put a little sky in, and we are about finished with this little composition. I love these ones that are so quick and easy. Just go so fast. And you know, it's easy when it only requires 2 or 3 stamps. Find them quick. So I'm just putting in a little sky here, and I'm leaving the white, little white edge you can see, and that sort of creates a little cloud line. Gives a little more interest to the sky. And again, I'm being careful not to touch this umbrella. I don't want that to bleed out. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think our little girl is about finished. She looks pretty good. So let's just add another little detail here. In the sand. Okay, that looks pretty good now. I'm happy with that. So one thing left to do, and of course that is to sign and date. And put that on a card and give it away. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And for those of you who love watercolor and can't get enough, follow me on Instagram, Bonnie Krebs Bible Journaling, and see how you can do lots more with this watercolor. Thanks so much again, and I will see you all next week.